A Fortune 10 is using Hedera. A major exchange listing, a Hedera-focused company is going public, an interview with a council member that won the race to production, and a small delay on a big name. As always, there's a lot to get into, so let's get started. Infinite World is going public at a $700 million valuation and will trade on the NASDAQ under the ticker JPG. For anyone that doesn't know, a SPAC is a company created solely to merge or acquire another business and take it public as a faster alternative to an initial public offering. There have been some companies to go public that have had some Hedera involvement, including Animoca Brands and Immutable Holdings, but what's notable about Infinite World SPAC is their ecosystem is completely built on Hedera. Infinite World is part of the Suku ecosystem, the CEO of which we interviewed a few months ago. Suku allows brands to create NFTs with complete digital authentication. This will strengthen the trust between brands and customers, creating countless efficiencies and financial benefits. Suku believes that NFTs in the Infinite World marketplace will succeed where other platforms have struggled, because Hedera will allow Infinite World to build rich, immersive digital environments that aren't possible with other platforms that often have to deal with high cost and scaling issues. I don't know what these relationships look like, but the HBAR Foundation has indicated that Infinite World has worked with Disney, Warner Brothers, Wayfair, Target, and even Amazon. Here's a clip from our interview with Jonathan Lapchick to give you an idea of what they're doing over at Infinite World.
Spencer Dinwiddie. And Spencer was on, I think, our 21st episode. And I was just reading that he's got a drop of 4 custom sneakers that are, I believe they might be game-worn sneakers that were customized by an artist or something. And I understand he's collaborating with Suku to enable this drop. And I thought maybe you could outline how this all came together and what that looks like.
Yeah. So we started with this tag on the shoe that creates a digital representation as NFT. So because we have this proprietary technology, now we can issue NFTs of physical assets. So you have the NFC tag that goes into the shoe that is tamper-proof. If you remove it, it's going to break the chip. And so now you can actually sell a physical product like a shoe or a car or a hat, like Hedera did with the hats, as NFTs.
Benjamin Melnicki, Chief Compliance Officer at Robbinhood, the most popular trading app in the United States, has been liking a lot of Hedera posts on LinkedIn, including Rob Allen highlighting Dovu's carbon offset NFT marketplace, Metaverse co-founder Alan Smithson discussing why they chose Hedera, and Hedera posting a Bloomberg article that pointed out Google's involvement with Hedera. Now this gave me some flashbacks to another fintech company executive, John Padilla, former head of PayPal's blockchain division. He liked tons of Hedera stuff on LinkedIn as well, and even judged a Hedera hackathon, and I thought for sure there was a council membership or a use case coming. But as it turned out, while there was a lot of smoke, it must have been caused by embers that never ignited into a fire, at least so far. So in the case of Mr. Melnicki, we shouldn't speculate further than the facts, and that is, there's another executive at a large, relevant fintech that's a fan of Hedera, and I certainly understand why. That said, Robinhood's What is Cryptocurrency Explainer page does mention HBAR, while other notable top 10 platforms like Solana and Cardano are missing. Crypto.com is one of the fastest growing exchanges in the space and announced that it was going to list HBAR a few months ago. Well, this week it actually happened, and now you can deposit, withdraw, and trade HBAR. According to CoinGecko, Crypto.com is the third largest exchange by volume, behind only Binance and Coinbase, so this is a seriously important on-ramp. Thanks to all of those who have stopped by our website, thehbarbull.com. We are already going to award one of the One Center NFTs to someone that registers interest. But now we're going to sweeten the pot. We're going to give away another t-shirt signed by Hedera founders Mance Harmon and Dr. Lehman Baird. We just launched, but we're adding to the site all the time, so come by and take a look. We introduced the One Center NFT concept last week. There will only be 100 One Center NFTs, and we're still working on the 5 Center, 10 Center, and 25 Center to match the US nickel, dime, and quarter. These other denominations will only unlock when the price of the HBAR reaches 10x the corresponding coin value, 50 cents, a buck, and $2.50 respectively. DLA Piper managed to be the first council member to bring their use case to production with the calcite debt offering on Toko. The interview to follow will get any Hederian excited. Jeff, Scott, thanks for joining us. About a year ago, we did a full interview with you guys with introductions and a deep dive into Toko, and we'll post a link to that in the description below. But with that out of the way, we can get right into the latest news. The first tokenized, securitized debt offering by a corporate, a company called Calcite Limited. Can you tell us a little bit more about this news and the progress and execution toward your vision for Toko?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Super exciting news indeed, and great to be back connecting with you again since our last session. I'll let Jeff maybe jump on some of the sort of technical developments that have occurred around the product and how we've helped leverage that in this deal. But let me just talk to the overall vision of what we did here and how we really seeing this as a kind of our future of finance moment coming to fruition. So working with the client, it's a client of both DLA Piper, the law firm, and obviously Toko, the blockchain services and tokenization company. So it's a dual engagement, which is our typical model for these deals. So we're working with it's actually a US issuer, a US owner of some assets. The underlying asset that this is linked to is a Eastern European mining operation in Croatia. And then we structured, again, this is where the combination of law plus tech is so critical. We're able to use regulatory arbitrage to help, pick jurisdictions, and we're able to do a private debt offering out of a corporate entity we set up for them in Hong Kong. So it is a fixed yield debt instrument, it's a three-year fixed rate of return product. So proper financial instrument, and it's associated with that asset. But I think the really couple of really interesting pieces for me here. One, we've got a US owner of an Eastern European asset doing a Hong Kong issuance to a global investor pool, and they're acquiring tokens that have been deployed on Hedera, HTS native tokens. So it's super exciting, and this is kind of that sort of future of finance vision that we've had around trying to democratize finance to give people the ability to actually create new and interesting asset classes in digital form, and then to have them go to market. Now, the second piece of this, which I think is really shows the progress we've made with the Toko project, was the integration of our digital asset custodian Hex Trust in this particular deal. So Hex are a regulated digital asset custodian, fantastic user experience. I use them myself. Toko itself has corporate accounts set up with Hex. And it's, it looks and feels like like web banking. The difference is obviously you can put your dollars, you can put your Bitcoins, you can put your HBARs, and you can put your security tokens in there. So it's a really, it's a wonderful sort of multi asset platform with all of the comfort that comes from it being a regulated custodian, just as we're used to expecting, I guess, in the traditional financial services world. Over the last year, we've integrated Hex directly into Toko. So with this deal that we've just done, we were able to mint these assets. The assets initially sat in a Hex wallet that was owned by the issuer, our client Calcite. And then when the cash leg was completed, so the payment for that, and the payment was actually done in Ethereum in the end. We tried to do it with HBAR, but it didn't happen. But it could have been done. But then the tokens, once they were purchased, were immediately deposited into the investor wallets in Hex. And then the really exciting bit was we actually showed immediate secondary market liquidity on a sort of digital OTC basis, where the digital assets that were bought by one of the investors were able to be bought and then transferred to the wallet of another. So we're now talking about, debt instruments with fixed yield returns able to be created on a blockchain, deployed on a blockchain, and then traded amongst investors within that. So it's super exciting development, I think. And, there are so many more complexities about what we hope to do going forward. But as a first sort of end-to-end digital financial deal, it's truly exciting, and the team was very pumped to get this one over the line.
So, hey, last year this time we had a showcase of an NFT that we had fractionalized, which was a little bit ahead of the market because that's when the NFT buzz really just took off in January, et cetera. And throughout those 6 months in the beginning of the year, we were really focused on building functionality for institutional type use cases in different market compliance regulations, et cetera, and really getting into building out the ecosystem with all of these integrated partners. Reached 6 months, we finished our MVP, got the core basic functionality out of the way, and then we started enhancing on making a deal like this a reality. So integrations and testing and going to production, launching the actual product, which happened in November, has been extremely exciting. What's really more exciting is the fact that we were able to complete this deal in a relative record time. I would say that the technology component of it, kudos to Hedera. Finality was extremely fast, it was predictable, immutable, etc. Transaction cost was extremely low. Yeah. And overall, it was just a great experience working with the Hedera team, working with our integrated custodian, and then also our technology team, who was able to pick this up, run it through the business process, and then get it out to the clients and specifically the downstream investors. So it was a really good project overall.
Yeah, and just to drop in there, I mean, the BCW team where Jeff works and the Luther Systems team, who are our kind of external technology support, were crucial in bringing this all together. So I do want to just drop that in, Jeff, as being modest about not making the reference.
Yeah. Also, legal team, they put in endless hours of work structuring this across multiple jurisdictions. So work very closely together. And this is the future, right? Technology and law in one single offering. That's something unique that you don't really see very much.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, I've learned a lot from you guys already. I mean, we see it all the time with NFTs that they tokenize, a single piece of art, but you can't have a securitized piece of art and then fractionalize it like you guys did without it being a security. And that's one thing that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. Going forward, do you think we're going to see in the near future additional securities offerings like this?
Yeah, a couple of points on that, Brandon. I'll avoid getting legalese on this too much.
Okay.
Whether an asset is a security or is not a security or a collective investment scheme, and how it will be categorized in one country, the next country. This is the true complexity of these deals from a legal and compliance perspective. And it is obviously critical that you get that right. Not least of which is because getting securities law wrong in jurisdictions can wind you up in prison. The criminal offences if you're dealing in securities without the requisite licenses. So it's a critical issue, and you're right. It's so tempting to suddenly say, "Well, great, here's an NFT, and I'll sell it once. Great, not a problem." Wouldn't it be amazing if I could sell it to 10 different people, 1/10 of it each, bang, you're into an investment scheme? So it's such an easy line to cross from unregulated to regulated without, just because it seems sensible in the next logical step. But it does obviously bring some substantial kind of consequences in terms of the legal analysis. But to your question, are we going to see more? Absolutely. I think we've done some analysis of where the market's at. It's still extremely nascent. The value of digitized security tokens on the planet today is, there's various estimates, ranging to sort of $500 million to whatever, and you can find different numbers to support your argument. But my view is that it's a rounding error at this point in time. We're as close to zero as we need to be, and we'll look back at this moment, in due course and think, well, remember when we were doing these very first deals? I think there is every reason to believe, and we've got a very strong pipeline of transactions, obviously coming through the law firm and through Toko. People who are picking up on this idea, people who realise that this is the future of their industry. We're seeing strong uptake and interest in the real estate industry. In art, in minerals, in a whole range of different asset classes, as people begin, back catalogues of music and all sorts of gemstones, lots and lots of different asset classes where people are suddenly realizing, hang on, I can use this for fundraising purposes. I can use this technology for provenance purposes. I can use this for information disclosure and transparency purposes. And some of the early use cases we saw around things like provenance of supply chain type provenance use cases. Well, now we're starting to see with tokens, well, here's an economic interest or ownership right baked token. Why not throw in the provenance as well? And now I've got the best of both worlds in terms of being able to understand what this asset is, where it came from, where it's been, all of the features on it, and then continue to add new data on chain as projects continue. So I think we're going to see a very significant uptake. When's that going to happen? When's the explosion going to happen? We debate this pretty often, and we've done a fair bit of market analysis, and we think it's the real takeoff point is probably the back end of next year. But we are going to start seeing this drip feed of deals coming through that we're already working on, and it is going to be a slowly, and then all of a sudden very, very quickly. There are some limitations in the market today. Some of the regulated players, the ATSs, the exchanges where these assets will ultimately end up are still under regulatory scrutiny or still being developed. There's not a lot of liquidity on them yet. But I suspect there wasn't a lot of liquidity on the New York Stock Exchange on day one either. So, we're at that moment in history, and it's definitely coming.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I'm so impressed with, Hedera has all kinds of cool use cases out there at the enterprise level, but they're mostly proof of concept. And there's some proof of concept in this as well, but this is actually taking it to production. So I appreciate you guys winning that race. Again, thank you guys so much for taking the time, and happy holidays. Do you have anything you want to add?
I just want to shout out to Hedera LLC and Hedera Foundation for supporting us during this entire process. It's been great. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Brandon.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, guys. The one thing that I discussed with Jeff and Scott off camera was how big and diverse the team is that is dedicated to Toko. Over 30 attorneys and technical experts from multiple enterprises are involved full-time to build out this ecosystem. This just goes to show that while council members may move more slowly than a startup, the firepower that they bring to bear is substantial. I've told myself that I wouldn't pay attention to Hedera transaction volume unless it smashes the all-time high at about 9 million transactions per day, or in case of a new use case stepping up in a significant way. Luckily, some of our community members did some digging and on-graph analytics and have found the latter. We highlighted an interview that John Hederian did with SKUX and Lehman Baird a couple months ago, and it seems 100x HBAR found that SKUX coupons are now showing up on the Walmart website. Yes, the Fortune 10 Walmart. Lemonade pointed out a SKUX job posting from a few months back for a director of client partnerships at Walmart. Then 100x HBAR went on to highlight that the SKUX token had a significant spike in volume earlier this week. Taken together, this is obviously worth noting. Great job following these breadcrumbs, guys. I think you're really onto something. Yet another reason why 2022 looks like it's going to be a great year for Hedera and the HBAR. At the time of recording, we're sitting at about 31 cents. When we posted last week's video, we were sitting at about 27 cents and blasted past what I thought might offer some resistance at 30 cents, and then hit resistance at the 0.5 fib extension level at 35 cents. This level flipped from support to resistance last month. We also managed to test the trend line we discussed last week, which I'll look to for support along with the 30 cent level. 35 cents will still be the level I'm watching for resistance, but if some of the catalysts we've discussed pan out, it might not put up much of a fight. Community member Dominic pointed out that Bitcoin dominance is testing support, and he's targeting a drop to 25%. This indicates a significant alt season. In my opinion, if this were to happen, it would be accompanied by Bitcoin getting close or breaking its all-time high, and that would obviously cause some fireworks for HBAR. We'll be watching the market in the weeks to come for some direction. I've said this before, but after covering so much today, it bears repeating. The market, or most of the market, does not know what you know, Hederians. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you get something out of this content.